So I'm just loosening up her hindquarters here, just getting ready to get on here. Ideally, I don't want to get on a horse until I've got them flexing pretty good. I can yield their hindquarters, and those feet will move forward at a walk, trot, and a canter. But I'm somewhat limited on time, so I've got to kind of get a little bit of a move on here.
And Clinton is in the saddle. Flexing his horse at a standstill.
Right here, I just started flexing the horse, and I started to, get that horse to yield their hindquarters there. See how she's kind of fighting that bit a little bit there? Just hold that pressure and wait. I'm just waiting there until she softens up. See, I can't force her to stop fighting. See how I just wait? Now watch my hand. See how quickly I release? See how I'm reaching back there, getting that hindquarters to disengage? When I can get that hindquarters to disengage, I can take that power away from her. So my main concern is now is getting her to flex and getting her to yield those hindquarters. She's a little bit confused how to flex from the same, from me being up in front of her, up on top of her, okay? She's used to be flexing it from the side. So she's got to get a little bit better there about just flexing from side to side and get a little bit more comfortable with that. This is where, again, I normally have somebody in the round pen helping me here, getting me to go forward. So what I'm trying to do now is just get her to move forward in a little bit of a circle. I've got to have her head bent a little bit in case she jumps forward and bucks me off or something. So by keeping her head around a little bit, if she goes to run forward to do something stupid, I can hopefully disengage her hindquarters. But right now, I'd have somebody in the round pen helping me get going, okay? And that's very, very important that you follow that technique in the Colt starting DVDs that I've got to make sure that you get those horses' feet moving. So this is probably the first horse in the last 10 years that I, other than last year's competition, that I've actually started by myself as far as being in the round pen, because I don't like this particular method. When I worked for Gordon McKinley, we started over 600 colts in a 2-year period, and maybe only one horse in those first 600 horses buck within the first 3 rides is because of the way we started them, getting those feet to move. So what I'm doing here is just trying to get her feet to move here a little bit here. I'm just tapping her with that whip here, trying to get some movement.
Come on, Dopey.
Okay, and she's just kind of kicking out, retaliating. She's not really bucking. She's just kicking out, flipping me off, telling me to get lost.
I think that's called a California powder.
Yeah. This is what I had hoped wouldn't happen. She's kind of tough to get moving, so I just gotta hope it works out. I need to come on.
There you go.
I gotta get her feet moving, crabby old thing she is.
Nice thing about that Aussie saddle, it kind of holds you right in there. Yeah, cowboy. Woo!
She just doesn't want to give up a union card.
Yeah.
I need to get those feet moving. I don't really care where she goes, as long as I go with her. Come on. That's why I always have somebody in the round pen with me kind of chasing me around to avoid what's happening here. I'm only hitting her as hard as necessary to get the job done.
Key thing is that he does not back off when the horse shows defiance. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
He doesn't want to send a message that that's how you get me to stop this.
You need to move your feet, precious. That's okay. Oop.
10 minutes, gentlemen.
When I actually get on them, I like to get them walk, trotting, and cantering pretty quickly around the round pen, because the more you get those feet freed up at the canter, I find the safer they get. I think the worst mistake people make with the young colts is they do the little bitty syndrome. They just little bitty walk and a little bitty trot. Get those feet moving. That's why having somebody in the round pen with you, chasing you around, really helps get those feet moving. So that whole thing that you just saw then, she was kicking up because she didn't want to move, and she was kind of resenting me having to whack on her to get her feet moving. Well, if I would have had somebody in the round pen with me, they would have been the ones making her move, and I just would have had to be a passenger. So I would have been like the good guy. The person on the ground would have been the bad guy, so to speak. So what I'm saying is, I hope everybody can see with this particular horse why it's important to do it the way that I'd show on my colt starting DVDs, is being able to have somebody help you in that round pen. Now, Rick, hi Rick.
Yep.
I want to make it.
Turn up Clinton's mic, please.
I want to make it clear that, you know, if she was actually really bucking, she's not bucking. She's just kicking up and kind of protesting,
right,
which is the typical young thing. If they're actually bucking, I would never whip them or get after them, because they're just going to buck even harder. She's just kind of pissing and moaning and kicking her hind feet up, which a lot of young horses will do. But I want to make it clear that if I felt she was bucking, I would bend her head around. I wouldn't be spanking her, because I'd be 40 feet in the air. You know what I mean? So the biggest thing you don't want to do is when they kick up like that, it intimidates most people and they back off. So I had to run around a little bit, and now I needed to stop. I'd like her to keep running, but again, you get this filly tired, and she's already starting to do that now. She just kind of has the heart the size of a pea. She just gives up on you, you know what I mean? So it's important that I don't push her. I've got to push her, but there's a point where continuing to push will just get a worse result. So I just want to make that clear, is that that's why it's important to get their feet moving on the ground first. You sensitive devil. See, I haven't got her to really canter yet, and that was what bothering me. That's what I'm trying to do here. She's done a lot of walking and trotting, but not a lot of cantering, and that's what I wanted to do here, is get her cantering, because I knew when I got on out in that obstacle course, part of the requirements from the judges is I have to walk, trot, and canter, and that's what she's not wanting to do. Give me the guns. One at a time? Yeah. Can't have a... See, when she spins around, I just hold that rein there and wait till her feet stop moving and she softens. There. Ready? Give me the whip real quick. Give me the whip. That whip right there. She's a dull thing, there's no doubt about her. I personally like real sensitive light horses. Sensitive light ones usually take more desensitizing, but they're naturally more apt to move away from pressure, okay? See her pawing the ground, shaking her head. That's just her way of kind of saying, you know what? I really don't like having to submit. I really don't like having to move my feet. I don't like her doing it, but I just kind of ignore it because that stuff will just go away by itself.
Oh, you precious thing.
Trying to get those feet moving here. Squeeze, cluck, and spank. And you can just kind of see how she's just kind of sullen up on me now. So I'm going to go a little bit longer and then I'm just going to quit. I'm going to get off. I reckon. I'm just going to get off.
Get off?
There's no point me. She's shut down and she's not going to do any more right in this round pen. It'll be much better for her.
Good for you, man.
It'll be
That's
much
a horsemanship
better.
thing to do.
It'll be much better for her in that big open pen because it'll make those feet free up a little bit more. You know, a mare like this, you wouldn't want to ride her in a small pen because it kind of shuts them down mentally a little bit. You know what I mean? So the bigger pen will help. I don't think it's going to help that much, but it's going to help. But part of being a horseman is knowing when to push and when not to push. And I feel like I've tried to make my point as best I can in the time frame. Now tomorrow I don't think she'd be half as like this, you know what I mean? So I'm going to get off and work with the feet and work with a few other subjects and, just do the best I can with forward motion. As Craig was saying yesterday, if you don't have forward motion, you can't train a horse. You know, you can't train. Nobody ever gets on a horse and say, well, what kind of a ride you have? And I said, well, a great one. Where'd you go? Well, nowhere. I just read a book. Well, why didn't you go somewhere? Well, I whipped his ass and he wouldn't run, so I just sat there and read a book. You know what I mean? So there's a point to go on and there's a point to not, and I'm going to accept what I've got to work with and the time frame I've got and try and build from that point. So I'm just going to go work on some other things with her.
All right, Clinton Anderson chooses to stop training a little early, just maybe let his horse cool down.
Yeah, I will. What I'm doing here is because I don't want to go forward any more on her and get her feet to move, I'm just going to practice getting on and off, practicing some of my freestyle stuff, you know what I mean? So I'm basically just kind of working on desensitizing right now. So instead of just letting her stand there and do nothing, I'm going to let her stand there and get her breath back, but at the same time, I'm going to get on and off her, slide off the back of her, get her flexing a little bit better. It's important to make sure you can get on and off them from both sides. See all that pouring and that? I don't really worry too much about it. That stuff will just stop once she gets happy between her ears. And a lot of people say, well, why isn't the horse happy if it's supposed to be learning? You know, I kind of relate it to like a 16-year-old kid that's been sitting around on your couch, you know, for 16 years watching videos. If you think all of a sudden you go in there and tell them to get off the couch, they're going to have to get a job, start paying rent, start paying board, start cleaning up after themselves, mowing the lawn, doing some chores, you think they're going to smile and say, oh, thank you, Mum and Dad, you know, for teaching me responsibility. I just can't wait to get my lazy butt off the couch. Of course they're going to moan. They're going to moan and groan and act like you're the worst parent in the world. That's kind of what's kind of going ahead with this filly right here is that there's some things that she just doesn't want to have to yield and submit to. So her shaking her head and pawing, they're just ways of her saying, I don't like this. I've never had to do this before. People have got to realize you've got to go through some of that little bit of ugliness sometimes to get to the good stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean that she's not going to ever get it. It just means that she mentally has to work it out. Okay? It's just a part that they have to go through.
Saw. Chainsaw, Ted. Chainsaw.
you know, her particular role in the herd, she's always been the alpha herd, you know, member of the herd. So she's always been dominating the other horses. So, you know, I suspect I'm the first person that she's come across, or first animal that she's come across, that she has to yield and be more submissive. So again, it's a little bit of a shock to her.
About the blower. The blower will work.
10
seconds.
10 seconds. Ain't gonna happen, guys. Stand by.
Time's up.
Time is up. All right, please stop your training. Please leave the round pen. Thank you, gentlemen. Van Hargis, Craig Cameron, Clinton Anderson.
Now, during the round pen training portion of this, the guys were being watched very carefully by the judges, and they were being assigned points in various categories. But the real test came after all the training was done, and the 25 minutes was allocated for each guy to show what his horse could do. They could take as much time as they wanted to out of that 25 minutes for a warm-up. Then once the judging started, they had to do rail work, doing walk, trot, and lope gaits in both directions. They had to stop, turn, and back up their horse. They had to mount and dismount, pick up the feet. They had to ride in a straight line for about 40 feet. And the overall demeanor of the horse throughout this test was something the judges would be watching very carefully. After the rail work came the obstacle course portion of the test. The first station was a serpentine pattern, 4 poles 12 feet apart. The second station was a lane with 2 90-degree turns. The third were several logs that the horse had to step over. Fourth was an elevated rail that the horse had to step over. And last, they had to pick up a rope and swing it over the horse's head and then drag a log about 10 feet. The final portion of the test was called the freestyle. In the freestyle, anything could go. You could do anything that would show off your horse's ability. And this is where it got really interesting.
All right, Clinton, are you ready to have the time started?
I'm ready now, mate.
All right. Timer, are you ready to start the clock?
Timer ready.
All right, let the test begin. 25 minutes.
I'm going to just spend the first 10 minutes with this mare just trying to get her feet moving. And I'm actually going to talk the whole time I'm doing it. I feel more relaxed when I'm talking. My mother said that in Australia they normally spank kids when they're born to see if they're alive. She said the doctor kept spanking me to make me shut up. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I'm doing here. I'm just going to try and get some forward motion here from her and just get her leading up here a little bit and walk her around the outside. But I'm not leading her by being in front of her. I'm actually driving her. I'm using drive and pressure because that's what I'm going to have to do when I get on her. My biggest problem with this horse is a lack of forward motion. So I just need to make sure I can get these feet moving somewhere with this whip so that when I tap her, hopefully under saddle, she relates it. Right now, I just have her go in a circle. I don't really care where she goes as long as she goes somewhere. She's kind of a little pissy, precious thing, you. Oh, you treasure. That's a girl. So my goal is to kind of get her leading up here a little bit beside me. That's the girl. And just get her getting around the outside. If she runs ahead of me, I'll just turn, tap her again, just get her up here a little bit. So that's how I'm going to spend the first 10 minutes, is just seeing if I can get those feet driving. Now, I'll keep turning her for right now, but I may end up cutting her off here a little bit if she keeps trying to get ahead of me. That's the girl. because I'm going to have a tough time getting her to canter. So I need to just get her walked around this pen here a little bit. Just get these feet moved out. That's it. She seems a little bit more lively now in her feet, which is good. She had a little break. The best thing for this mare was to have a little break like she did. She looks a little fresher. Oh, you treasure, come on. She looks a little fresher here. Ideally, you know, the longer break she could have, the better her attitude would get, because she wouldn't feel, you know, tired. See, this is her problem here. She's just a little pushy and dominant. And I'm just going to start pushing her out of the way just a tad bit. And we'll see what happens. That's it. The fact that she wants to move out a little fast is actually pretty damn good. That's a girl. If I have trouble getting her to go forward when I get on her, if somebody could shoot her in the house with a BB gun, that would be great. Oh, you walking fool, you. Move those feet. Oh, sorry, I wasn't supposed to go near the obstacles. That's it. I'm going to change sides here. See, it's this here that I'm having a little bit of a problem with, is that pushiness. Change sides, you change brains. There we go. She's just got to realize that I'm going to keep tapping her
20 minutes.
With that whip until I get her feet to change their pace. When she was kicking up, she was trying to tell me that's how I'll get rid of that whip or your legs, is by resisting you. I'm trying to let her know that I'll keep spanking, 1 spank or 180 spanks, and I'll keep doing it with rhythm until I get your feet to move. How do you sensitize a horse? You apply pressure. When you take the feet, when the horse's feet move, you take the pressure away. Okay. Come on. Just getting these feet loosened up. Next time she goes to run, I'm going to try and stop her. I like that. I like her when she corks falls out of her butt and she gets going somewhere. Oh, that's it. I like that. That's what I like on a 2-year-old when they step out. To me, the most important thing on a young horse is getting movement. I'd love a little Van's movement. You know what I mean? His horse had a lot of movement. My horse and Craig's horse doesn't have that much. So we'd kind of like to swap a tad bit. He give us some of his movement, we'll give him some of the quietness, and vice versa. I like that there. The worst mistake people do on young horses is they let those horses' feet get sticky. And when their feet get sticky, their mind gets sticky. And that's what happened to her. That's why I had to get off her, is because I just felt like she had shut down, and that's as good as it was going to get. Oh, you're so good. You delicate flower. Okay. See, like that there. She just has no respect for people at all. Thank you. You need to back away. Thank you. Precious. Okay. Some lady's up there freaking out. Why does he hit Precious? Doesn't he love her? I love her, all right. I will not let a 1,000-pound animal push me around. And that's what her problem is from the beginning, she's dominant with the other horses and she feels like she can be dominant with people. And we need to teach her that she can still be dominant when she's out in the pasture, but she can't be dominant with us. And take the lead rope off. Normally I don't leave my halter on, but because we're under a bit of a time frame thing, I'm going to take it off now. I'm going to double check my flexors here, make sure I can flex her. Not too bad. Okay, get that softness there. I'm going to make sure I can move this hip. Move that hip around. If I can't move that hip, I could be in trouble when I get on, because if she goes to buck or take off, if I can't get that hip around, I'm in trouble. Because, you know, if her back feet are spread out, they're balanced. Hold that pressure when she's pulling. Hold it. I'm going to wait for two things, her feet to stop and for her to soften. There, good girl. I'm going to pick up and see if I can't get her feet to yield here. Her hind, there, that's what I'm looking for. Get that hind end to move around. Okay. I'm not being judged just yet. I'm going to redo the mount and dismount.
We're waiting for your cue to
That's
begin
fine.
the judging.
Always check your girth before you get on. That's a go. I just want to spend a few minutes here before I get judged, just flexing her.
15 minutes.
Letting her know that, you know what, I want you to soften to that bit. Be soft here, because I can't steer her unless I get some lateral flexion here. Okay, I can't. That's a go. That's pretty good lateral flexion for a colt, just for their first ride here. Okay. Righto, it's just time to, let's start getting judged.
All right, let the judging begin. Judges?
I'm just going to try and get it walking a little bit here.
First obstacle is your serpentine through these poles.
No, I'm going to do the rail work first.
I'm sorry, you can do the rail first.
Anytime she wants to go forward, hell yeah. Okay. A little bit of daylight under my ass. That's how it's done, people. We'll just keep going with it for a while yet. I got 15 more minutes. When they want to run, you just kind of go with them. The worst thing I could do is really pull on her, because that's been her problem, is she doesn't want to go. She needs to drop the cork out of her ass and get going somewhere. Come on, Precious, you can do it. That's a go. Now we got her licked. Maybe not. See, I'm not worried about her bucking. I'm worried about her kicking up and falling on top of me and sleeping on me. Ah! It's another fresh pair of underpants, babe. Okay. We're not quite done yet. Get it done. I need to just, that's a go. There, I feel a little change in her just now. Nobody clap, nobody do anything, just sit there. Okay, clap's good. I don't care, take your pick. Okay, but there's a little change in this horse just then. There's a little change in her. You see her give up a union card a little bit? Okay, it fell out the back of her tail. Okay, so now we've got a little walk. I think it's my idea to walk now. Now we'll get a little trot. If she goes to go too fast, I'll just bend her into the wall till her feet slow. That's a girl. That's a girl. It's pretty hard to get a young horse to trot around the outside of an arena like this with lots of banners and crowd. And he's a spooky guy, ain't he? That's it. That's good there. So now I'm going to turn her. And go the other way. New side, new brain. That's a go. I feel much better now. That's a go. She wants to relax with the right attitude. I'll rub on her. Okay. Come on, Fluffy. Okay. I'm going to start the obstacle course. I'm not going to be able to can it the other direction, because what's going to happen here in a second is she's going to do to me what she did in the round pen, which is what? When she kind of gets a little tired, what she do? She just starts looking for the unemployment line, okay?
10 minutes.
So I'm going to sacrifice the can in one direction to hopefully pick it up somewhere else.
All right, 10 minutes remain. Clinton, beginning on the obstacle course. Number 1 is the serpentine.
Right now she feels pretty good, like she's got some energy to her feet. Worst thing you can do when those colts get running like that is clam up on them and get scared, because that just makes them even tighter. Good girl. She did a good job. Okay.
Obstacle number 2 is the lane.
I want to move all around on my colts. I don't want to sit up here and go, what the hell do I do now? Okay? Remember, what do you do when you ride colts? Act like you've been drinking. Okay? Move all over them. Get that scaredness out of them. So I want to be loose on her. I don't want to be sitting up here doing this. That's it. There we go. I feel like
Obstacle number 3 are the logs that you step over.
I feel like she has some confidence in her feet now. That's a girl. Good girl.
Obstacle number 4, the squeeze step over.
Good girl.
No penalty for that. Number 5, pick up the rope and swing it over your head.
She didn't pick up her feet, but that's all right. Right there. Oh, the rope's here. I guarantee I'm not going to miss this shot. There we go. Drag the log now, is
Now
it?
you drag the log for 10 feet.
You don't have to drag it backwards. You can drag it anywhere you want.
That's correct.
Good girl.
All right. Now, just so you know, what remains is for you to mount, dismount, and pick up the feet.
I've got to
and then your
back up.
freestyle. And your backup, yes.
There's a step. Just hold and just wait for her to figure it out. I might tap with my elbows here just a little bit to get a... Just wait for her here. Just hold. I'm just going to hold it here. There, a little bit of release when she stopped. There's a step. Wasn't pretty, but it was a step. There's another one. There's another one. Good job. Okay. Just want to flex it here a little bit. Mount and dismount. Okay, I want to show my colt's confidence in me by getting on it with a head straight. That's a thing that you show signs of confidence in your horse. And I'm going to get off the offside. And I'm going to get back on again and show my horse is broke. I'm going to pick up her feet. There we go. I'm going to hold it up a few seconds. Good girl. Okay, this one back foot gave me more trouble than the other feet. It's off the ground. Nothing said how quickly it comes off the ground. There was no rule about quickness of the feet. So technically, I've done everything right so far. Good girl. It's funny, she just had that one foot that she had a problem with. The other 3 feet were actually pretty good. Good girl here. I want to make sure she's confident in me holding it up.
5 minutes.
Okay. That's a girl. This foot she wasn't too bad about. And this one here, she actually let me take it out a little bit. Good girl. Okay. What's next?
You have 5 minutes for a freestyle.
Okay, freestyle. I'm going to show off my colt's ability to be quiet and confident. Yeah. Okay. Want the kangaroo here. If you ever want to go hunting for kangaroos, it's important to get them broke. The kangaroo skins. Make sure she's nice and relaxed here. Okay. She's not worried about it here. That's a girl. A lot of things bother a lot of young horses, like animal skins. It's important to show that your horse can accept it. I want to prove that I can crack a stock whip on the ground with her and make sure that she's quiet with it. Not bad. Start the chainsaw. Start the chainsaw. This is just if you're a bit of a logger and you live in logging country. Try the other one, quick. Start that one. Keep it running. Start. On a hot day, it's important to cool them off. Good girl. Make sure she stands here real nice and quiet. Good girl. Keep both of them running. I want my 2-year-olds to be bomb-proof. I want them to be like broke kids' ponies, just the quietest things in the world.
2 minutes.
Hop out of the road, Ted. No, get out of the road. Thanks, mate. Want to make sure I can crack a stock whip. Good girl. Okay, pass me that chainsaw. Pass me that, mate. That's it. There you go. That's a girl. Good girl. I want to make sure if I go hunting for kangaroos that I got some way of doing something about it. That's it.
1 minute.
1 minute. No pressure or nothing. That's a girl. Good girl. She's got confidence. It doesn't get any better than that, people, let me tell you. Everybody give my horse a hand. She did a good job. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Good on you.
Time's up.
All right, time is up. That was Clinton Anderson with Sultry Safari. Ladies and gentlemen, please a nice round of applause for Dr. Robert M. Miller, Sherry Hill, Mike Kevel, Bob Morehouse, and Jack Brainerd. You could not ask for a better group of judges. And you can be guaranteed that they will pick the correct winner. Ain't no doubt at all in my mind. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the presenting sponsor of Road to the Horse this year is Horse and Rider magazine, and I have with me the editor and associate publisher. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, Mr. Darrell Dodds. Darrell, you get the honors of announcing who the winner is going to be, but first I'd like to point out this giant check we've got over here with these two lovely ladies holding it. This is a check for $10,000 that is going to go to the charity of choice of the winner of this event. And we'll find out in just a couple moments who that's going to be. Darrell, we've got a buckle here. We've got the judge's decision. You, my friend, get to announce it. This is the moment we've been waiting for. Who is it?
I just want to say one thing. First off, I don't think that any one of us sitting in this room could see any better horsemanship, and these are three of the greatest clinicians in the world, and they proved it today. Please give them a round of applause. You're not going to see it ever again.
Hold up that big, beautiful buckle. This is the buckle that they're going to win right here. I don't know if you can see it. You'll be able to see it when we're all done. It is big, let me tell you. All right. I think we need a drum roll from our drummer, if he's back from his break. Here it comes. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the 2005 Road to the Horse is...
The winner this year is Clinton Anderson.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
I've never seen him work so hard in my life.
Thanks,
Thank you very much. Good on you, mate. Thanks, Rick. Thank you very much. I want to thank you, judges. Thank you. It means the world to come out here. I really appreciate it. I have the highest respect for all of you. Thank you very much. Thanks, mate. Well, first of all, I want to say, everybody give my other two competitors a hand because they did a hell of a job. It was anybody's game, and I would feel proud if any one of those guys won it. I'd feel equally proud because we all had difficult horses at times, and I think just the world of respect for both of those guys. I'd like to. Where is the lady from? Yeah, I'd like the buckle. That'd be good. Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate it. Come here. Thanks, mate. Thank you very much. Where's our Sheila? Sheila, where's Sheila from National Riding for the Hand? Everybody give her a hand there. There we go. The National Riding for the Handicapped Association, or they call it NARA, is a charity that my wife here, this is my wife Beth. Thanks, babe. I appreciate it. My wife and I give a considerable amount of money to NARA over the years because we are big believers in what National Riding for the Handicapped does for kids and their horses and just everybody in general. And I highly urge you to support their organization and your local chapter. People ask me why I donate to them. I feel like horses have enriched my life a tremendous amount, and I feel privileged that I get to be able to do this for a living. And it does the same thing for kids with handicaps and disabilities. It's amazing how much these horses change their lives, just like they change our lives. And I'd like to thank you very much, mate, and I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you very, very much. This is quite an honor to accept this from an incredible competition, and we get to take a check home.
Good on you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are you going to take that on the plane? Maybe you'll cash it here. Okay. She'll find a way. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for the winner of Road to the Horse 2005, Clinton Anderson.
Did the right trainer win this year, or what do you think about it?
It was a tough competition. Any of them could have won. I think the right trainer won.
Do you think the right trainer won, and why?
Well, yes, he did, because he put his horse through more exposure than the others.
Do you think the right trainer won, and if so, why?
Oh, yes, I sure do, because, the other horse was harder to hook on with, but Clinton done more groundwork and stuff, and it paid off in the end for him. It really did.
Do you think the right trainer won, and if so, why?
Yeah, I think he had the right techniques. He just did more. His technique is getting the horse's mind right, and he goes above and beyond.
Are you going to try to stand up on your horse with a whip when you go back home?
Oh, sure. Yeah, ain't nothing to it.
Do you think the right trainer won, and if so, why?
I think he did because of the amount of work that he did with his horse.
Did you think that the right guy won, and if so, why?
I think he did. He just did a lot of extra things that the other guys didn't do.
Now, do you think the right trainer won?
I sure do. He's the best there is. He's probably got as many fans as Elvis Presley had.
Well, mate, I hope you've enjoyed the Colt starting demonstration and the Colt starting competition. I certainly enjoyed being a part of it. It's something that I look forward to for a long time. I hope I get to go back and defend my title again. One thing I want you to do is be safe working with your young horses. Remember, preparation is the key. Get control of their feet on the ground and don't get on until you've prepared that horse for a nice, safe ride. What we're going to do now is we've got a bonus clinic. I'll be riding my 5-year-old quarter horse, Gelding Diaz, and this clinic shows you a little bit more of some of the advanced things of getting your horses soft, supple, and relaxed. Remember, the stuff in the Colt starting, that's just the very beginning. We can go a long way if you follow the Down Under Horsemanship program. Remember, I've already done the recipe for you. All you have to do is follow it, mate. Keep up the good work and be safe.
Our mic problem solved, Mr. Clinton Anderson.
Thank you very much. Good to be here. Well, it's a great day. We might want to turn that down. There we go. Can you guys hear that all right? A little too loud? Good deal.
Well, thank you very much for being here. You know, this is a great day to be alive. It's a great country to be in. We get to meet a lot of people that are into horses and love horses, and we get to learn something. So to me, you know, everybody put your hands together. It doesn't get any better than this, let me tell you. Very good. Well, what I thought I would do with today in this hour demonstration is I thought I would just ride one of my horses around. Usually I do a lot of demonstrations with problem horses and unbroken horses and things like that, and I very rarely use any of my own horses. The main reason is when I was a kid learning a lot of this stuff, one of the biggest frustrating things to me is I'd watch the video or read the book and so forth, and you know, they'd tell me what to do, and I'd go out there and work with my horse, and they'd say back the horse up, and I couldn't get my horse to go backwards one step. He might rear in the air or do anything else other than back up. And what I soon realized is that often when you ask a horse to do something for you, when you're first teaching them, okay, what you want them to do is usually the complete opposite of what they want to do in the beginning. You know what I mean? You ask them to back up, they want to rear, they want to go sideways, they want to come forward. The last thing you want to do is back up. So it kind of frustrated me because I felt stupid, or I felt like my horse was stupid or whatever. And it wasn't until I really got behind the barn and I went to some clinics and things that I started to figure out that a lot of it is just very normal. A lot of this resistance you encounter is very normal when you're first teaching a horse. So what I tried to do is I said, well, when I get good enough to show somebody something, I want to mainly use problem horses, because that's what, when I say problem horses or untrained horses, because that's what people have got at home. That's what they've got in their backyard. You might like what I'm going to do with this horse. And this horse here, his name is Diaz. He's a 5-year-old quarter horse gelding. And I know this, everybody says this. Everybody thinks they have the prettiest horse in the world. But I got to tell you, this is the prettiest horse in the world, okay? This horse was born with a mirror and a makeup kit when he came out, okay? This is a pretty, if you don't know what a pretty horse is, you look at this one, because this is a pretty son of a gun. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to ride this horse around and just kind of show you some stuff that I would do at home, some of the training techniques that I would work on. I'm not necessarily going to go into a lot of detail about how I'm teaching it, but I just thought in this next hour, I might ride him every day somewhere between, 40 minutes and an hour, and I might kind of show you some of the things that I might do with him on a daily basis and how I might train him to do some things, okay? One of the biggest things I'm such a big believer in is when I first get on my horses is flexing them. Left and right, making sure that I can get that nose real light. I'm a fanatic on softness. I want my horses so light that with just 2 fingers I can pick up on their nose. And you might say, well, Clinton, don't you normally ride in snaffle bits? Why aren't you riding this horse in a snaffle bit? Well, it's not that I've got anything against shank bits, okay? Often if you have a horse in quarter horse or Arabian or some sort of show association, after they get past a certain age, they have to be shown one-handed and bridle. So eventually you've got to teach them how to guide one-handed and so forth, and that's what I do with this horse. It's not that I have anything against shank bits. What I've got something against is people using shank bits to make their horses stop better or to make their horses be lighter. I try and get all the suppleness and softness with a snaffle bit. That way when I go to a shank bit, they're even lighter again, because a shank bit has got more leverage than what a snaffle bit has got. So if I've got my horse extremely light with a snaffle bit, he's going to be even lighter with this. So a lot of people don't like riding in snaffles because they'll say, well, Clinton, when I go to stop my horse in a smooth snaffle, he just runs through it or he sticks his head up. When I put a shank bit on him, okay, he stops straight away. That's because the shank bit has got more bite to it. So basically it's more severe, so he pays more attention. What I'd like to try and get you to do is teach your horses how to be responsive and soft in a snaffle bit. If you get them soft and responsive in a snaffle, they're going to be much, much lighter when you put them in a one-handed bridle, okay? So for starters, horses don't have hard mouths. They have what you call hard bodies, okay? If somebody walks up to me at a clinic and says, Clinton, my horse has a hard mouth, I'll say, well, listen, take the bit out of your horse's mouth, ride the horse around with a halter, and come back and tell me what you feel in 10 minutes' time. So they'll do that. They come back 10 minutes later, and I'll say, did the horse feel heavy or light? And I'll say, he felt heavy, okay? Well, that's because if the horse had a hard mouth, when you took the bit out of his mouth, he should be what? Lighter. He was actually heavier. Horses don't have hard mouths, they have hard, stiff bodies. There's 5 body parts that I want to get soft and supple on my horse, okay? The head and neck is number 1. The poll, this junction between their ears, is number 2. The shoulders is number 3, the rib cage is number 4, and the hindquarters is number 5. If I can control these 5 body parts on my horse and I can move them independently of each other, let me give an example. If I want to be able to get the horse to bend his head and neck and not move his feet, that would mean I can isolate his head and neck from his feet. If I want to get the horse to soften at the pole, I want to be able to pick up on the reins and have him tuck his nose in without necessarily moving his feet. Or if I want to do a spin or a roll back and some things, and I'll show you that as it goes on. So I need to be able to isolate the horse in those 5 body parts, because I don't care whether you're Western, English, trail rider, it doesn't matter what sport you like. Everything revolves around getting a horse soft, supple, and relaxed. If I can have a soft, supple, relaxed horse, I'm going to have a better dressage horse. I'm going to have a better team penning horse or a better cutting horse, etc. So basically, you might say, well, Clinton, if horses don't have hard mouths, why does it feel hard when I pick up on the bit? Why do when I pick up, it feels heavy? That's because any stiffness through a horse's body comes through to their mouth. The mouth is like a telegraph station. Anything that's stiff behind it shows up in the mouth. Does that make sense to everybody? So if you get the softness behind the mouth and you get things oiled, the mouth feels like velvet. One of the best things I remember as a kid, and most people, I don't know most people, but some people may, what's the most fascinating thing if you can ever remember the first time you saw a horse or you touched a horse? What was it? Their nose felt like velvet. You know what I mean? They had the softest noses in the world. And I can remember as a little kid being so intrigued with the horse's end of his nose. You know, I didn't even care about the rest of him. I just liked that velvet feel. So you will have a horse with a mouth like velvet if you can get the 5 body parts soft and supple, okay? So I'm going to show you how to do that right now and how kind of work through that. So I'll do a lot of flexing like this at the standstill. You cannot do too much of this. Remember, lateral flexion is the key to vertical flexion. Vertical flexion is when you get the horse to tuck his nose in and soften to your hands. The more lateral you've got, the easier it is to get vertical, because if your horse is stiff to the right and stiff to the left, when you pick up on both reins, it only gets worse, okay? It only gets worse. So I'll practice a lot of what we call one-rein stops, where I'll trot or canter off here, okay? And then when I sit and relax, I want my horse to stop, okay? And then I'll flex his head from side to side. Now, in the beginning, of course, when you sit and relax, like when I'm posting, I'm saying, okay, let's go, let's go, let's go. When I sit and relax, my body says, let's not go. Now, in the beginning, when you first do that with a young horse or an untrained horse, when you sit and relax, what are they going to do? They're going to look for the next feed store. They're just going to keep going, aren't they? They don't even know you're up there, okay? So what do? If they don't pay attention, I'll see if we can just kind of... Okay, let's imagine I sat and he didn't stop, so what do? Slide our hand down, do a one-rein stop. Now, how many times may we have to do this? I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 500 times. Depends how quickly your horse catches on, okay? Horses are just like people, okay? Some catch on pretty quick, others are as dumb as a bag of rocks. It's like most people's kids. You got one pretty smart, one as dumb as a bag of rocks. What do you do with the kid that's dumb? You can't give him away. Nobody will take him. You keep educating him and hope when he's 18 he leaves home, okay? So you just got to keep working with them. Some will catch on quicker. So I usually find most of the cold-blooded horses, lazier horses, like cold-blooded horses are horses that are lazy, okay? The lazier type horses usually catch on to things that require rest very quickly, okay? Like Diaz, he's kind of lazy. He dreams about sleeping, okay? So anything that requires him to do less effort, he's like the smartest horse in the world. Anything that would require him to do a little bit more effort or really be very athletic, he's not as inclined to want to catch on to that as quickly. Now, other hot horses, for example, like some bloodlines of quarter horses and Arabs and so forth, they're always wanting to go. They're always wanting to do something, okay? They're always wanting to do everything today. Where cold-blooded horses, they're kind of putting everything, come on, Clinton, let's just eat some hay together. We'll get to the field tomorrow. Life's too short to be going this fast, okay? So you might have to do this several hundred times over a week period until eventually, when you trot your horse off, when you sit and relax, they melt down. See, when I trot or I'm sitting up, my spine's kind of straight like this. When I go to sit and relax, I melt my spine into the seat of the saddle. It's kind of like just exhaling. You exhale all your, so you sit up straight. And when I melt, I want my horse's feet to melt with me, okay? So that'll take a little while. So I'll do lots of that for the first week, 2 weeks, do lots of lateral flexion. I am a nut on softness. I cannot stand horses pulling on me, okay? And I think I got that from the days when I played polocross, is that a lot of horses stick their head up and pull on you and run through the bridle. So I'm real fanatical about lightness. Okay, so after I've done a bunch of those one-rein stops, then I'm going to do a lot of bending like this, lateral flexion bending at the walk. I want my horses so that, see, whenever you make a horse's feet move, okay, the stiffness gets more obvious. I suppose what I'm trying to say is, if you have a little bit of heaviness at the walk, it gets worse at the trot. worse at the canter and worse at the gallop. The faster a horse's feet go, the stiffness becomes more aware or more obvious to you, okay? So I want to practice lots of softening while the horse's feet have been moving. Now, when we're doing those one-rein stops, we're asking him to soften while his feet are stopped. So I do a lot of this bending exercise, just being able to soften them up. And see, when I release my hand to my knee, you see how he keeps his nose towards my toe? This is like a listen to me, pay attention exercise. I don't like it that when I release the rein, when I create slack in the rein, the horse automatically snaps his head back. Does everybody understand what I mean? Like, if you flex your horse and you release the rein and he just snaps his head back, that's what you call a false give. He's giving, but he's snapping it back with a little what? Up yours attitude to it. Does that make sense? He goes, well, don't think I'm going to do it again. Oh, what do you know? I did it again. Well, don't think I liked it, okay? So if I find one that when I release the rein and they want to snap that head back, I'll meet them halfway like that. As I release it, if they try and take that head back, I'll let them think that they ran into an imaginary brick wall. And that'll make them wait a little bit there. Does that make sense to everybody? They'll be like, I want my horse to, when I release it, he's look at him. He's like, you're tricking me. You know what I mean? I want him to say, are you sure? Are you sure? Oh, that feels good. You know what I mean? I don't want him to do, well, you better hurry up and release. You better hurry up and release, okay? I don't want that. So I want to practice a lot of softening while the horse's feet are moving. So this is what we call our bending exercise. The one-rein stops that I was telling you about, that's what we call our emergency handbrake stops, okay? If you were ever out in the trail and your horse went to take off or buck or rear or anything like that, the quicker you can get his head bent around, the safer you are. Because what happens when you bend their head around, watch his hind leg. See how his one hind leg crosses over the other hind leg? When a horse's hind legs cross, you're basically pushing in the clutch of your car. You're taking away a lot of that power. They can still move, but they can't bolt, buck, rear, or take off. For a horse to bolt, buck, or rear, their legs have got to be what? Balanced. When their legs are separated, now they're balanced. It'd just be like you. If you had your legs balanced and somebody pushed on you, you could balance yourself. If you crossed your legs and somebody pushed on you, they could easily push you off balance very quickly, couldn't they? So that's what lateral flexion does. And you might say, well, Clinton, why is this lateral flexion and all this bending stuff so important? I tell you why, because when you bend them, you take away a horse's advantage to pull on you. Let me give you a quick example, okay? Let's say, for example, you say Betty's horse bolted on her. What would you imagine if I said somebody's horse bolted on her? What's the horse doing? He's galloping. Where's the horse's head? It's in the air. What's the horse's mouth doing? It's opened up, okay? What's the rider doing? The rider's pulling back with both hands, squealing, peeing her pants, okay? And the horse is not stopping, is it? You could be the strongest man or woman in the world, but if you want to pull back on a horse with two hands, if they don't want to stop, they are not going to stop. Now, you might say, well, why is that? I got a really long bit at home, Clinton, with a shank that long that I need wheels on the bottom of it. Why can't I make that son of a gun stop? Because whenever you have a horse, whenever you pull straight back on a horse's mouth, you've entered a tug-of-war that is difficult to win if he doesn't want you to win it. For example, all he has to do is lean forward and lift his head up, and now you've got 1,000 pounds of body weight leaning on your hands. Nobody's that strong to pick up 1,000 pounds. Let me prove to you why this lateral flexion works, okay? What's your name down the front there, mate, with the hat on? You right there. Carol, okay? Imagine Carol and I are in a tug-of-war together. You're in front of me standing up, I'm pulling on you, you're pulling on me, okay? Now, you look like a pretty tough woman, okay, and you put up a good fight, but I could probably pull you off balance. I'm probably a little stronger than you. You're going to put up a hell of a good fight, though, no doubt about you, okay? Now, I'm stronger than you, okay, but now you're going to be smarter than me. If you stand over there at an angle like that or an angle like this, and now you say, Clinton, let's have another tug-of-war. And now you pull on that rope, but I have to face this way. I'm not allowed to face you. I have to stay this way. I guarantee you're going to pull me off balance because when you pull from the side, you've taken away my balance. Now, I'm still going to fight you. I hate losing. Just watch me play Monopoly, okay? I hate losing. So I'm going to pull on you, but you're always going to beat me because I can't use my strength against you. So you are smarter than me. You, okay, are the rider. You took the horse, which is me, the unwilling partner, and you say, Clinton, if I pull on you from the sides, you're going to still fight me, but I'm always going to win. That's what happens when we pull on one rein. When we bend a horse, we take away their ability to balance. Does that make sense to you? It's a balance point there. So the more we bend from side to side, we take away their balance. Now, you might say, well, Clinton, I can't pull on one rein forever. Eventually, I've got to be able to pull on two reins. I have no problems on pulling on two reins at all. All I want is that you don't start pulling on two reins until you've got softness here first. Remember, if they're not soft here and they're not soft here, they're really not going to be soft here. Put it this way, everything gets worse when you pull on two hands. So that would analyze it for you, wouldn't it? So if you're unhappy with the heaviness, why bother pulling on two hands? Because you know it's only going to get what? Worse. It never gets better, it always gets worse, okay? So I'm going to do a lot of bending exercise. So that just explains to you why lateral flexions are important. And I'm when I teach, I don't believe that I have any special ability as far as a horseman. I think there's many horsemen and women out there that are far better than me in training horses. If I had to say I had a little bit of talent for something, it's getting people to understand horsemanship. And I feel like the way I got that like that is that it's not through education. I left school when I was 15 and can barely spell my name, okay? So it's not from formal education, but the way I teach is the way that I processed it myself. One of the most frustrating things for me when I was a kid taking lessons, and I had lots of English lessons and Western lessons, is the instructor would be yelling and screaming, you know, do this, do that, you know, bend the horse's head to the left until the third vertebrae reaches the lunar of the moon. What the hell is that? You know what I mean? When I'd finally figure out, I'd look at them and say, you mean you want the horse's nose to touch my foot? And they'd say yes, and I'd be like, I didn't say it because they knock your head off, but I'd think to myself, well, why don't you say that? Why do you have to make it far more complicated than what it is? So it's pretty simple. Flex head, nose touch foot, drop rein. It doesn't get any easier than that, does it? And one thing that I say about down under horsemanship, I pride myself on the fact that down under horsemanship is what I call idiot-proof horsemanship. It had to be idiot-proof for me to figure it out as a kid, let me tell you, okay? So what I did is when I finally figured out what people wanted me to do with a horse, basically, I dummied the whole thing up and made it simple for me to understand. Does that make sense? So once I processed what you were trying to teach me, then I said, okay, Clinton, let's just forget what they said. Let's just do this, which is really what they want anyway. So when I started teaching people, I just repeated the same things that helped me learn. So we spoke about lateral flexion here, getting the horse to bend and soften from his nose to their tail. Basically, the straighter your horse is from their nose to their tail, as a general rule, they practice in resistance. Then I'll do a lot of transitions where I'll trot the horse off, I'll sit and relax, and I want him to rate my seat. So now I'm going to bend him down to a walk. Now, of course, in the beginning, when you first start this, okay, when you sit and relax, when you trot your horse off, you're saying what? Go, go. When you sit and relax, okay, he's probably not going to slow down. I don't want him to stop. I want him to slow down. So if he doesn't slow down, what do? You bend him around, you use your inside leg, you bend his rib cage with your inside leg or spur, and get that horse bent from their nose to their tail. And I'll practice this at all three gaits, just loping them off, okay? Sitting, relaxing, and then bend them down, just like that. Okay, and I'll do lots of these transitions like this, because all of these transitions are with one rein. They're still only with one rein. And you can do a ton of this kind of stuff out on the trail. In fact, that's the best place to do it because you've got some distractions out there that'll help you, get your horse to pay more attention to you. Let's say you're trail riding, your horse goes to jig. Instead of pulling back on two reins, pick up on one rein and redirect that energy, okay? Redirect that energy. Or if I'm going along here and he's kind of shying at this horse here on the fence, okay, I'm just going to bend him around like this and say, hey, give me your attention, give me your feet, pull to your hip, release to your knee, pull to your hip, release to your knee. So you know how sometimes you'll go to a horse show, and you know how you unload your horse out of the trailer, and half the horse is there, and the other half some idiot you wish you didn't own. You know what I mean? They're goofing off, they're looking around, they're whinnying, they're trying to embarrass you in front of your neighbors. That's why I never tell anybody my horses are really good, because they love to make you look bad to the person you said that to, okay? So anytime we have a horse that's not paying attention, I'm going to do a lot of this bending exercise like this. I'm trying to get the horse so that as soon as I pick up, he instantly bends and softens his nose down. So a good rule of thumb is, how do you know when your horse is ready to be picked up on two hands? This is how I tell people at my clinics. Anytime you slide your hand down the rein to pull on one rein, if your horse's first response is to do this, and then he bends. See, a lot of horses do that. They do this, and then this. This, and then this. Anytime his first response is to lift his nose out, he's anticipating that you're going to what? Pull on two reins. So he's telling you, Clinton, you got to do more one rein stuff. Like watch his nose. As a general rule, I want his first reaction to be his nose comes straight down there, not throw it up in the air and then bend it down, okay? So I'm going to spend a lot of time doing these bending exercises like that with him. Other things with Diaz now that I'll do is I'll practice, especially if you've got a one-handed horse and you're teaching how to neck rein. I don't try and neck rein any horses until they've had at least, when I say a year's worth of riding, I want to get them real soft and supple. I don't want to try and just start dragging that rein across their neck from the beginning. So how I teach them how to neck rein is pretty simple, is I lay the rein, take the nose. Lay the rein, take the nose. Because when you're teaching a horse to neck rein, they've got to get direction and impulsion off the outside rein. So anytime I lay the outside rein on his neck, the next response is I want his nose to look in. I always want a horse to look the direction they go in. So if I go to the right here, he should be looking to the right. There's curl to right. If I go to the left, watch his nose. His nose should be the first part that turns. Okay? The nose should be the first part that turns. I never want the horse to turn with their shoulder first and their nose behind. So anytime I lay that rein, I want that nose to turn and then the body to follow. So I'll practice just guiding him around here, just making sure that when I pick up, the horse is soft. When I go to neck rein, he moves off that. Okay? Now in the beginning, with 2-year-olds, of course, when you lay that rein, they're not going to go. So you lay the rein, pull their nose. Ask them with the neck rein, tell them with the direct rein. Until eventually, horses are a creature of habit, they start to figure that out. Other things that I'll do is I want my horses to be able to move their shoulders around. Okay, this is what I call counterbending here, moving these shoulders over from side to side here, being able to pick them up and move that shoulder over here, being able to isolate that body. If you can pick these shoulders up and move them around anywhere you want, it's going to be much easier to teach a horse how to do a rollback or a spin. Okay, I'm a fanatic on getting a horse just so light in my hands. Okay, pick them up and just move these shoulders around. Okay, so I'll practice a little counter bending here, and I'll trot him off here, pick him up here, and counter bend him off that way. Another thing I like to do is a bunch of this, just pushing their hip up like that. I want to be able to make sure that the hips will go on one line, and the front end will go on another. Like for example here, his hind legs should be to the left, and his front end should be on an imaginary straight line. The more you can push those hips around, it's going to help you on lead change. Like in the beginning, I'll come over here to the fence and just put my leg back, and like at a walk, and as soon as they move their hip off, I take my leg off, and you kind of build on that. And then, in a couple of days, you'll get 2 steps like that. And then when they get better, you can go to a trot, pick up, and as soon as they move their hip off, what do? Turn loose. And you just kind of teasing on that until they eventually figure out that when you put your leg back a little bit and press, they should move their hip off while keeping forward. And then once they've got the hang of that on the fence, then you can draw your own imaginary line or your own imaginary fence. Okay? So I'm real big on making sure that the horse will give me his attention. See, anytime I pick up on the reins, I don't really care where he keeps his head and neck. Like Diaz keeps his head kind of lower and he keeps his nose tucked in. He does that by himself. I don't make him do that. You're not going to get most Arabs or thoroughbreds to carry their head and neck like him. I don't care where the horse naturally carries their head and neck. What I care about is when I pick up on the reins, how do they feel? Then I'll practice some stuff like 2-tracking like this, where I'll pick them up and just make sure. A 2-tracking to me is just a side pass with forward motion. So making sure that they'll move off my leg and go forward at the same time. If I get a little lazy on me, I can get my end of my reins like that and wake them up. But this is real good for doing lead changes. When you can pick that horse up and move them off like that, they're doing pretty good. Okay. And in case you want to be able to do it at faster gaits, okay? So I'll practice moving them off my legs at a trot and a canter. Then I'll start to lope them around a little bit. And I want to be able to guide them anywhere I want them to go. So I'm going to practice not a lot of circles, but a lot of guiding. Straight lines. When I lay this neck rein across his neck, I want him to look in and go that way. If I point straight,
that's where he should go. If I pick up on both reins, he should soften his chin to me. Okay, so wherever I kind of point, that's where he should go. Now, of course, in the beginning, that, you point and they don't go. So if I lay that neck rein, he doesn't go. I help him with the direct rein and my outside leg. So I spend a lot of time just guiding my horses around, making sure that they'll go on a loose rein, okay? And I'll practice some things where picking them up and moving that hip off like that, okay? I do a lot of squares and things with being able to pick them up and pushing them, that hip over here, then going straight again. This kind of clears this side, okay? Pick them up. And just make sure anytime I want to guide him, I can. Now, all horses have one side, of course, that's a little stiffer than another side, okay? You've got to work 2/3 on the stiffer side than what you do the other side. And you'll never get them completely balanced. You'd like to, but all horses will always, sometimes if you work too much on the bad side, now the bad side becomes the good side and vice versa, okay? So just practice a lot of that, taking that rein across the neck, making sure they stay soft. Anytime I lay that rein, if they don't look in, I'll bump his nose in like that and say, hey, always look the direction you're going. Always look, that's the boy. I cannot stand them running around like that with their head to the outside. I always want to make sure that they're always looking that way. So once I guide them around, I like to do a lot of rollbacks on my horses because I feel like it gets them soft and supple and gets them moving. So I do a lot of stops, back up, and roll back. And the better your horse rolls back, the better they'll collect themselves and get off your hands a lot more. So I'll usually find something. If my horse is spooky about something, I'll use that object to get my horse to help roll back a little bit. Like he was being frightened of this sign here. So I'll stop him, back him up, and then roll back. Now you might say, well, Clinton, he knows what to do. What would be the teaching phase for that? Well, in a young colt, I start this very early. I just bring him into the fence at a 45-degree angle, stop, turn, and go, okay? And I just say, whoa, and I let the fence stop the horse. Whoa, pull his nose into the fence, and turn like that. And you can do this from a very young age. It hasn't got to be something that you wait a long time. But after he gets the hang of it, I might stop, back him up a couple of steps, and then turn. But you notice how I always get a little bit of shape before I turn. Shape is direction. I stop, get a little shape here. That means turn to the left, and then roll him back. I don't want the horse rolling back with their shoulder first. I always want them rolling back with their nose first, which is quite a bit more difficult to do when you're one-handed. So I get some shape, okay? And then once they get the hang of it, of course, then you don't have to do it near the fence as much. You can do it kind of anywhere you want to go. So for example, here, we'll stop, back up, and lope off. I don't even care if the rollback's not very fast. What I want it to be is soft. I'm a fanatic about getting it light. We'll stop, back up. And when I kiss, that means get out of there and lope. Okay, get out of there and lope. So I like to do a lot of this in circles, just getting these colts to stop, get back, and lope off. But anytime I feel like it's stiff, or anytime I feel like they're not being soft, okay, I'm going to slow it down and soften them up and then go back to it again. Stop. Okay. So then you'll start to do it out in straight lines and things. See, I can't think about stopping on him because it's on his mind all the time. Or stop, get a little shape, and then roll back. And I hate screaming U-turn rollbacks. I like them to come back through their hocks. Okay, get a little shape, and then go. Now, eventually, of course, you've got to be able to do it one-handed. Okay, I'll get him back here. He's a little lazy then. Let me wake him up. Stop. There we go, like that. So it's much harder to get a horse to roll back when they're one-handed because you have to give them the direction and the impulsion all off the same rein. We'll back up, get a little shape. There we go. That time he really came through himself. Okay? Well, yeah, that's what we're looking for there. They need to stop and get back. Thank you. That's quite a bit harder than what it looks. Well, come on, fatty, get out of there. So with him, sometimes I have to run him a little bit to get his motor wound up because, again, he dreams about sleeping. So I practice speeding him up a little bit here on straight lines because if you practice everything going slow, they'll do it going slow, but you've got to be able to increase that speed and still have them stay soft. So I'll practice a lot of speed control, and I want them to stay framed up as they run. If he gets out of frame, I'll pick him up and knock him off that bridle if I have to. Okay? But at the same time, if I pitch him away, I don't want him to run off. Well, stop. Okay? So practicing things slow is very good in the beginning, but you've got to get them to a point where you've got to be able to do it faster. The speed shouldn't scare them. The speed shouldn't scare them. You want them to rate your seat so that when I slow down, he says, praise the Lord, okay? He just comes right back to me. Okay? You want to practice it both directions. And be able to pick up on them while they're going faster too, making sure they'll give you that chin. I constantly kind of cluck to him with rhythm. That's a boy. Everybody give him a hand. He's a good boy. So, of course, during this, okay, I would have stopped and rested several times and let my horse kind of air up and get relaxed and things. Oh, I'm on the wrong lead. I hate when that happens. But it's important to make sure that you let them air up and realize that you're not going to ask them for their life every time. It's like starting a fire and then putting it out. Now, I like to do a lot of counter-cantering, which is he's on the left lead, but he's cantering a right circle, okay? And what's amazing to me is when you first start learning how to ride, you're extremely good at counter-cantering. You do it all the time, okay? Then when you get better at riding, it's almost like you spend the rest of your life trying to get good at it again. Counter-cantering keeps a horse honest, it keeps them paying attention, and it balances them. And it really helps a lot with changing leads. I don't like to change leads and then change directions the way they change leads very much. Like I change leads, but then I went a completely different way. Now, even when I'm counter-cantering, I still want him looking to the left. I always want him looking the direction I'm going. So counter-cantering is great because it teaches them not to anticipate a lead change. It teaches them to wait and pay attention. So when I'm ready to change leads, okay, when I kiss and press with the other leg, I want him to change leads. So, boy. Oh. That's it, boy. So periodically, we'll throw some things in there that keep them paying attention. Well, that's a boy. You're a good boy, aren't you? That's a boy. Okay. That'll do him. So, that whole thing then went pretty quickly, but I would maybe spend 40 minutes to an hour working on some of that stuff. But suppleness to me is the most important things. Whether I like reining, and I like reining in cow horse classes. To me, the suppleness is more important than the maneuvers. Okay? Any horse can jump around when they spin, but I want them to spin with the head down low and softness. Like, for example, well, you see how he keeps shape to him? He keeps his shape and he goes this, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. He doesn't do this and this and this. That stuff went out in the 50s and 60s, okay? And if it didn't, you're obviously not competing, because if you competed, you'd figure out it went out in the 60s, okay? Today, the judges want to see softness. They want to see correctness, okay? Well, and he's not as good to the right as is to the left. He doesn't have such a clean step. And Diaz is kind of a real kind of wide horse up front, and usually horses that have a little bit more of a wider front end, okay, have a little bit tougher time turning around because they don't have as much reach to them. You know, other things that I'll practice is riding in straight lines, stopping, and then just going across the arena. And finding something that they might be a little bit worried about is real good, because you just kind of ride them straight up to it. Stop, get a little shape, and then roll back. And just go from straight line to straight line, making sure that they'll go straight. And you look where you want to go. Get back. There, that's the boy. Because if you ever want to work cattle, or you want to do a working cow horse class, you've got to make sure that your horse will listen. And then halfway through it, I'll just go and check him and make sure he's listening. Get him back here a little bit. Stop. That's it, boy. Because if you're going to work a cow, they've got to be able to get off that back end and get somewhere. So if you don't practice them getting back on their hindquarters, thank you. If you don't practice them getting on their hindquarters, of course they're never going to get on their hindquarters, okay? So, I practice, but suppleness is the most important thing. Suppleness is more important than the spin. It's more important than the stop, because I find whenever I'm having trouble with a maneuver, let's say a stop or a spin or a lead change, usually it's because one of these 5 body parts is not really moving the way I want it to move. If I come back and I dissect the 5 body parts and make sure I can move all 5 of them, usually I find one spot that's a little sticky. Once I fix that spot and I go back to the maneuver, it's usually quite a bit better. Does everybody see how that works? Which is against human nature. Human nature is, if the horse is not spinning well, let's keep working on the spin. I'm almost the complete opposite. If they're not spinning well, let's figure out what body parts not yielding, not moving, not softening, and then let's get it moving and softening, and then let's go back to the spin. It's often you have to dissect a puzzle. You have to dissect a puzzle and then rearrange all the pieces and then put the puzzle back together. But the more you just keep snaring the puzzle, it just seems like it never kind of really solves itself, okay? So what I thought we might do now is, so that's kind of some stuff that I'll do on a daily basis with him, You've got to practice speed, you've got to practice bending and softening, you've got to practice the 5 body parts. So a lot of these 5 body parts movement, I want to be able to accomplish all of them within 60 days of a colt's first life. And you might say, well, Clinton, that seems like a lot. Now, they won't be able to canter and 2-track and do some things like that, but I can certainly do all the softening and a walk and a jog for sure. I'm a fanatical about starting your colts from day one with softness. When you see me tonight and you see me tomorrow, I'm an addict about flexing and suppling my horses, because I've worked for horse trainers over the years, and their opinion is, not all of them, but some of them was, well, I suppose I should say this. Some horse trainers have an opinion that they usually, when it comes to starting colts, they put their worst hand on the colts, or the greenest person, or the newest person. And they'll be like, yeah, I'll start riding when he's a 3-year-old. I have the complete opposite view. I want to put my best hands on my young horses, because I'm a firm believer in those first 60 days under saddle.
If you teach that horse how to pull against you, lean on the bridle, flip his head upside down, ignore you, if you let them get into a habit, that's exactly what they do. They get into a habit. Horses don't know what right and wrong is. All they know is what they're allowed to practice. So if I allow him to practice being stiff, what do you think he gets good at? Being stiff. If I allow him to practice being soft, okay, that's what he will practice being, is soft. Get that soft. Get him soft. See here, he wants to roll back before I say it. Get the softness. Come on, you eager beaver. There we go. You got to make sure they wait there, because horses want to get ahead of themselves a lot of the time. So I'm a fanatic that when you get on a horse for the first 20, 30 rides, I honestly think the first 15, 16 rides on a horse honestly molds a lot of things that are going to happen to that horse the rest of their life. And you might think I'm kind of over-exaggerating, and that's how strongly I feel about it. Because, see, people have got this misconception, and it was in Australia a lot, is that young horses have these perfect mouths. They just, 2-year-olds have a born soft mouth, and they're all light and soft and supple, and it's humans that screw it up. I don't believe that. I believe humans screw it up sometimes, but what I don't believe is that when I get on a 2-year-old for the first time, they feel like butter. Every horse, you know what a horse is bred to do? Pull against what? Pressure. Horses are genetically born to pull against pressure. If a lion grabs them by the hind foot, do you think they do this? Oh, just let me come back there a little further. I'm going to give to that. If a lion grabbed the horse around the head, do you think he's going to break at the pole and lower his head? He's going to pull against it. He's going to, if a horse gets their foot caught in some rubber vine, do you think they're going to stand there and say, wow, somebody will come get me soon? He's going to say, no, I better get out of here now, because the lions are going to come by and what? Eat me. So horses, by nature, are designed to pull and push against pressure. So when I get a 2-year-old, they're no different. When I get my horse this afternoon, when I first started applying pressure, what do you think that horse is going to do? He's going to pull against me. He's going to lean on me. He's going to flip his head upside down. They're all things that are very normal. They don't bother me. What bothers me is if you release that when they're stiff, if you release that when they're heavy. Does everybody see how that goes? So in the first 60 days, if you teach your horse to yield to the bridle, if you teach them to soften to the bridle, horses, when you first get on them, when they've never been ridden, it's like a fresh blackboard. So they have no preconceived idea of what's supposed to happen. That's why when you watch me ride my Colt, after I get going on that Colt, I'm going to act like I've been drinking. I sit back and slap him on the butt, and I wave my arm, a couple of times I might fart. I just move all over him, okay? Because when you get up there for the first time, okay, they don't know what you're doing there. So if you get up there and do this, oh my gosh, I hope he doesn't buck me off. If you ride like this for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and next time your buddy comes down the road and says, hey, Clinton, how you doing? Hey, Frank, and you do that, what are they going to do? They're going to dump you on your head. So that's why from day one, I slap them on the butt, I lean over them, I move my legs, and I want them to say, that's interesting. Human beings drink and ride. They drink and ride. Okay, I can accept that. You know what I mean? They don't know they don't realize that we're supposed to sit here nice and pretty, and it's supposed to look good. So in the beginning, I just want them to teach that all humans are alcoholics, okay? Now, if you're a little bit nervous when you ride, seriously, do drink before you ride. You'll find that a lot of the things that were bugging you before, you couldn't care less. Oh, God, that's the greatest thing in the world. He just tried to buck me off. Things that used to upset you and you used to cry about, you'll love, okay? Seriously. If you drink and ride, probably stop, but if you haven't been, start, okay? So that's things that I want to be real conscious about. And I do a lot of this too. And a lot of this stuff I'll do on dirt roads. Like in Australia, I used to live on a dirt road, okay, that went for like 100 miles. And I'll lope them down that dirt road and then pick them up and push them off here from one side of that dirt road. Then I'll pick them up here, bend their head and neck, and push them off here. And then I'll trot them off again, pick up, make them move off this leg again, okay? And so I'll make sure that they get off my leg. So a lot of this you can do on the trail. When I say shouldn't do in the arena, it's not that you have to have this type of arena. Ideally, a dirt road's the greatest place in the world to train a horse in the beginning, because on a new Colt, on the third ride, I used to ride them on this big dirt road, and there was very little traffic, okay? So when I put them on the dirt road, they don't know how to steer very good. So what do? They just kind of bounce off the sides a little bit, but pretty quickly they follow out that they should just what? Follow the road. So when I go down the road, some of them gallop down there pretty quickly. I mean, they kind of take off quickly. Well, it's easy to sit on a horse that's going fast as long as they're going in a what? Straight line. It's much harder to stay on them when they're going fast when they're doing this.
So I just let them lope until they just run out of air, basically. And sometimes that was 2 miles, 5 miles, whatever. And when I got to wherever I was, then I'd start bending them and flexing them and softening them. And every 40 feet on the way home, I'd trot them off, bend them down. Trot them off, bend them down. And I'd do that over and over again. So by the time I got home, I might have done, 1,500 turns to the left and 1,500 turns to the right. So by the time I get home, they already understand what the left rein and right rein is. Now, every day that I do that, when I put them on that dirt road and they soon realize that I'm not going to try and make them go slow, after 3 or 4 days, what do you think they start doing? They start loping down there what? Slower and slower and slower. Because they realize it's a never-ending road. I had a 100-mile road and I never had one go to the end yet. Okay? But the more you keep saying, don't go, they say, oh, this going's pretty fun. You don't want me to do it, don't you? I'm going to think I'm going to do it. You ever notice with horses, the more you try and make them do something, the less they want to really do it. The more you say go slow, the more they want to go fast. When you pitch the reins away to them in a safe enough environment and you say run a little bit, once they get a taste of that running, and then when they run out of air, most people would do, when I say run out of air, once they start to get a little tired, most people would be like, okay, we'll rest now. That's when you want to keep what? That's when you want to keep loping them. Until they're like, please can't we go slow? Please can't we go slow? See, that's how he lopes. Does that make sense? He lopes like, please let this be the last step. Please let this be the last step. I want my horses loping like that. Now, he'll go fast if I want him to, but at the drop of a hat, he's always thinking, today should be a slow day, Clinton. Today should be a slow day. I'd much rather feel like I have to make my horse go a little faster than what I do to pull them back. I hate riding a horse thinking, man, I hope he comes back. I always like the feeling of, man, I hope he gets going a little bit. I'd rather push one out than have one come back. So I thought what we might do is, for the last few minutes, is I'll just take a few questions from the audience about any of the things that I've demonstrated so far here today. If you see me and you want me to show you something more about it or whatever, we can just talk about anything you want. And we'll kind of answer these questions together as a group. Does anybody have any question or what's your question about riding? You want to know how to teach it? This lady said, how do you teach the horse how to counterbend? Remember, counterbending was when the horse's head is tipped one direction and his shoulders are going the other. This is counterbending. Well, I start out by just walking them along the fence like this. Okay? I just get them beside the fence. And I tip their nose into the fence, and I put my right hand out the side to kind of open the door, and with my left leg up near the girth, I just press. There. And as soon as I feel their body move off the fence, just one step, what do? We drop the reins. Then I'll pick up again. There. As soon as I feel him move off one step, what do? Drop the reins. And the reason why I do it beside the fence is when you're beside the fence, the horse can't turn left because the fence is here. So you pick up, there. As soon as he moves off, turn loose. And pretty soon you don't need the fence. And you just start pushing those shoulders off at a 45-degree angle like that. So this is what I call shoulder in, shoulder out. I always teach this first, that when I pick up that rein and press with my leg up near the girth, they move those shoulders over. Once they can do that well, then you turn, watch, the shoulder in, shoulder out is at a 45-degree angle. Then you turn it into this, which is more of a circle or a counterbend, just like that. Now, everything I've shown you, the foundation for is on 2 DVD series called Riding with Confidence Series 1 and Riding with Confidence Series 2, okay? So I'm not going to be able to show you everything, but that's the foundation. Each series goes for 6 hours each, so it's 12 hours of everything that I've kind of shown you so far. So you just build it in stages. The hardest thing, like for example, side passing, a lot of people think side passing is difficult to teach. It's actually very easy. How I teach them how to side pass a horse is I'll ride the horse along a fence like this. And I want to teach them that anytime I tip their nose and I put my leg back, I want them to yield their hindquarters like that. And just move their hindquarters off that fence like that. Okay? And I always teach their hindquarters to move first. You know why? Because their hindquarters always lags behind when you want a horse to side pass. You're always trying to catch the hip up. So I want to teach the hip to catch up. So I teach them that, which is go down the fence. When I put my leg back near your flank a little bit, move that hindquarters over. Once they understand that, okay, then how to turn it into a side pass is I've already got the horse's feet moving. What's the hardest part about pushing a car? Getting it started. Once the horse's feet are already moving, he's thinking that way. So then what I'll do is I'll pick up, yield his hindquarters, and just keep pressing. There. And as soon as I feel him shuffle off just one step, what do? Drop it and reward it. Okay? Now, in the beginning, it might not even be a very good sideways step. If you even smell his body going that way, what do? Drop it and reward it, okay? And then you'll go walk off again, the same direction. You pick up, then put your leg in the middle and press, and then you might get 2 steps. And what do? Drop it and release it. And the reason why you use the fence will stop the horse from walking, what? Forward. So pretty soon, most people can get 1 or 2 steps very easily. It's not difficult to get them to side past 1 or 2 steps. Okay, where most people make the mistake is they get 2 or 3 steps really easily, and then they try and get what? 5 or 6, 7 or 8, and pretty soon they're trying to ask the horse to side pass 15 steps, and the horse eventually says, I'm not doing it anymore, because the more he moves away from the leg, the more you keep pressing. And the reason why you might say, well, why do people do that? Because you know, when a horse is side passing really well and they're moving off your leg, it's the best fun you can have with your clothes on. Does that make sense? It really is. It's just a super feeling is when you press, they just move off that. And it's a tremendous feeling. So people do this. Oh my gosh, it feels good. I want to keep doing more. Does that make sense? Where what we need to say, here's a good rule. When it feels good, you should stop. Okay? Okay, when it feels good, you should stop. Unfortunately, in horsemanship, when it feels good, what do? We want to keep going. And that's where we end up messing up, because we keep going, and then the horse says, I'm not going to do it, or you run into problems, and then you've got to quit then. Okay, so as a good rule, when it feels good, quit. Okay? Who else has a question on this side? Then I'll go to the other side. Does anybody else have a question here? No? You guys are all got it? That's good. What's your question? Have I what? Have I done a thoroughbred? What do you mean done a thoroughbred? Okay. That's popular in Alabama, I know. But anyway, it's all right. I'm with you. Hey, they're the ones that are kinky. It's not me, okay? They're the sicklings, okay? You know, that's why most animals are nervous when you get behind them, especially sheep in New Zealand, okay? So a thoroughbred, you want to know, have I ever taken one off the track and tried to train it? Yes, and what would you like to know about that? And this lady said about the 100-mile road, the thoroughbred she has, she feels like would run to the end of the road. Well, I'm not going to let him run that much until I've done a lot of one-range stops. If I feel like, honestly, the horse would just keep running and running and running, I do millions and millions of one-range stops. It's just every time that horse goes to go 1 step faster than what you want him, shut him down. And you might do that 3 million times, okay? I had this polocross horse one time. I'll tell you how I got so fanatical about lateral flexion. I used to play a game called polocross. It's a lot of fun, but there's not a lot of horsemanship involved, really, as a general rule. It's pretty poor. And if you can imagine a hot barrel racing horse, now times that by 6, and imagine 6 crazy barrel racing horses all doing a pattern at the same time. That's kind of what polocross is, okay? So the horses get very hot and excitable and very nervous, okay? And the object of the game is to score goals, but a lot of the time, whoever's horse can stop and roll back the best usually wins. But most of us, we couldn't get our horse to stop within 100 feet. We were yanking on the bit and trying to stop him. Well, I had this horse one time that was so hot and nervous and crazy that I couldn't play the game anymore, and that's bad. For me not to play polocross when I was a kid, I must have been really out of control, because we thought we were in control, but looking back on it, we were only 1 step away from getting killed. So I used to have this big tie down on the horse. If I didn't have the horse's head tied right down, I used to have to keep ducking his head like this, okay, because he'd whack me in the nose with his face. I used to have a bit on this horse with a shank so long, it had to have wheels on the ground to carry it along the ground, okay? So I mean, I had all the equipment known to man, okay, to help me with this horse. Well, this horse was so hot and nervous that if I even released the reins 1 inch, he'd just take off. Like, I had to have such a tight hold on him with 2 hands that if I released the reins, he would go. Well, anyway, it's amazing how when people become desperate, what do you think they start doing? They start listening, they start learning, they start looking for answers. Well, I had known about these one-range stops for about 6 months before this horse got so bad. And you might say, well, Clinton, if you knew about the lateral flexion and the bending and softening, why didn't you do a lot of that with this polocross horse? Why didn't you do it? Because I thought it was for beginners. I thought it was for trail riders. I couldn't see how this was going to help my horse what? Slide to a stop. I wanted my horse to stop and roll back. I didn't want any of that beginner stuff. Well, it's funny, again, when you get desperate, you'll do what? You'll try anything. So I called up the horse trainer called Gordon McKinley, and I went to one of his horsemanship clinics, the very first horsemanship clinic, 6 months earlier, when I was like about 12. And I said to Gordon, I said, listen, my horse is hot, nervous. Every time I get him to stop, he throws his head up. And when I try and make him back up, he just rears. I couldn't even get him to back up one step without rearing. He said, Clinton, take off the tie down, put a snaffle bit on the horse, and only ride the horse with one rein for a week. Do nothing but one rein stops, bending, do nothing with two reins. And any time the horse tries to go faster than what you want, instantly shut him down. So if you drop the reins and he goes to take off, immediately shut him down now, not in 5 miles time. So that's what I did. But the first day, I didn't get very far because as soon as I dropped the reins, what do you think he did? Just took off. Does that make sense? So the first day was like, as soon as he went to take off, I'd immediately stop with one rein. So the first day, I never got more than 6 feet at any one time before I had to stop the horse. So I'm thinking, man, this doesn't make a lot of sense to me. We're not even moving anywhere. Okay? Well, I kept doing it. Well, the next day, he was a little calmer. So now I could go 10 feet on a loose rein, and he'd get faster, 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 and then he'd bolt. And just as he started to get faster, what would I do? Shut him down again. And I did this every day for 7 days. And at the end of and every day he got calmer and calmer. Well, at the end of the 8th, Gordon told me, he said, Clinton, on the 8th day, I want you to canter that horse along, pick up on both reins and say, whoa, and tell me what happens. Well, I cantered that horse along, okay? I was cantering that horse along in a big loose rein, and I picked up on the reins with 2 hands, and the horse did that. I mean, he stuck his butt in the ground, tucked his head up, and backed up 2 steps. And I was amazed. I almost fell off the horse with amazement. Because he said to me, Clinton, I said to him, I said, well, what'll happen when I do that? He said, you tell me what happens. I'll let you figure that out. You tell me what happens. And I was amazed because I thought to myself, that's odd. I never worked on a sliding stop. I never worked on the horse tucking his head in. I never even worked on getting him to back up. All I worked on, everybody, was what? One rein stops. This, okay? And what? Bending like this. That's all I did for 7 days straight. And I couldn't figure out why, after 7 days of doing that, why did my horse canter on a loose rein? Why did he stop really good? Why did he tuck his nose in and why did he back up? I didn't realize it at the time because lateral flexion is the key to what? Vertical. The softer I got my horse from side to side, that's why he dropped his head down. Why did the horse stop really good? I always had a good brake, but you know why I never realized it? Because my gas pedal was stuck to the floor. Because my gas pedal was stuck to the floor, it made my brake look like it never worked. Once I got my gas pedal not broken, my brake was always good. So that's why he stopped. Now, what do I say I got his gas pedal good? Because now, the reason, you might say, well, Clinton, why did the horse not want to run off anymore? Because he realized every single time he sped up more than I wanted him to, what was I going to do? I was going to shut him down. Now, I don't mean once or twice, like this lady with the thoroughbred. I mean I did this 400-500 times a day for an hour and a half. As soon as I even smelt that he wanted to go faster than me, I shut it down. And eventually he said, what's the point of running? Every time you put me on a loose rein, the very next thing you're going to do is what? Stop me. Does that make sense to everyone? So that's why when he's loping, okay, see how his ears are back towards me? Okay. He's loping and thinking, he's going to stop, he's going to stop, he's going to stop, oh, there it is, okay? So, because he's had 30 million of these one rein stops on him until he gets to the point where he said, you're tricking me, you don't really want me to go, do you? So after I learnt that very valuable lesson, okay, then I started really being a fanatic about lateral flexion. So you know what I did then? Is I said, okay, just come on out, Roger. I said, okay, I want to practice this on all horses. I want to see what it does. So I went and borrowed my mother's horse, my sister's horse, my neighbor's horse. I stole a couple of horses and put them back a week later, okay? And I did the exact same thing on 5 other horses. You know what I noticed? The same thing happened with every single horse, except it only took about 4 days to get the same result. My ding-a-ling took 8 days because I wrecked him for the last 3 years. You know what I mean? Okay? So believe me, lateral flexion is truly the key to everybody wants their horses soft like this. And believe me, I want them soft too. But you're never going to get that softness, okay? You're never going to get that softness until you get the lateral first. Okay, just put everything in there. Okay, we're going to finish up here right now. I'll tell you what we've got in here. We've got Gaining Control and Respect Series 2. We have handling foals, weanlings, and yearlings, okay? Actually, why don't you just hold that? Anyway, that's worth $120. Handling foals, weanlings, and yearlings goes for 11 hours, and it's worth $150.
Correcting problems on the trail. My horse jigs, bucks, bolts, kills my neighbor. Anything you've got is on there. That's $90. This leads and lead changes, $70. Hobbling and leg restraints, I'm not sure. Anyway, round penning, $80. Problem solving. Any problem you could imagine on the ground and under saddle, I think that's $89. Colt starting. This is what we're all here for, the Colt starting. 11 hours, Wild Mustang. $169. Riding with Confidence, 1. Riding with Confidence 2, $120, and Gaining Control and Respect Series 1. We are going to give all that away right now. Now, let me do something. Just put that back in there, Roger. We're going to give all that away. That's it. That's well over $1,000 worth of tapes. Now, who wants this? Somebody's got to get my attention. Is there somebody over here? Is there somebody, what about over here? Is there people, all the way over here? Somebody, down there, is there somebody here? Anybody over here? What about there, you? Here, somebody here. You want it? There you go. Listen, quit drinking, good on you, mate. The lady up the back, put your shirt on. Good job. Okay, you guys are the greatest fun in the world, and you know what? This is truly a great country. I feel like it's a privilege to be here, and we're going to have a great time, and I'm really anxious. I've been waiting for this competition for a year, and we're going to give it a good shot. Take care of yourselves. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Clinton Andерson.
Don't miss the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to start your horse off right with two-time Road to the Horse colt starting champion Clinton Andерson. This exciting, fast-paced colt starting clinic takes place at Down Under Horsemanship's facility in Bell Center, Ohio, and is the most in-depth and hands-on colt starting program available anywhere. In this 10-day clinic, you'll learn exercises that build flexibility and trust, safe and effective groundwork techniques, how to make catching, bridling, saddling and mounting a breeze, riding exercises to make your horse soft, supple and collected, how to negotiate trail obstacles with confidence, and how to be an effective horseman with your young horse. As a special bonus, all clinic participants will receive a copy of Clinton's Starting Under Saddle Series DVD containing over 11 hours of non-stop step-by-step instruction by the world's best teacher of colt starting techniques. Plus, as a clinic attendee, you'll find out all the secrets Clinton used to beat the country's best horseman, hands down, to earn 2 record-breaking Road to the Horse Colt Starting Championship titles. Space is limited and slots are filling quick. For this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to register, call 888-AUSSIE-2 today. Don't let this opportunity pass you by.